Tell me about the top 2 or 3 most epic solos you've done that nobody knows about.
I mean, two obvious, two different link ups come to mind. Actually, one a while back in Zion, and then one in Red Rock. But so, free soloing Moonlight Buttress is obviously one of the first big things I did and sort of put me on the map and whatever else.
I finally tried the route.
Oh, yeah.
And dude, it just hit on a completely different level.
Oh, yeah? Did you find it kind of scary?
Yeah. Well, or just so insecure, like the 0.5 pitches.
Oh, I find 0.5 is really secure.
Let me see your hands.
I've got really fat fingers.
You do have really fat fingers.
But
okay.
Of course, that means that the thinner pitches then are a bit harder. But,
right.
It's all trade-offs. But I do feel really secure on 0.5s.
Still.
But, yeah.
So incredible. Yeah. So mind-blowing to be up there and think about that.
Well, so I worked the first time I did Moonlight. I worked it a few days, then soloed it. It was like, big excitement. And then maybe 4 years later or 5 years later, I came back with Tommy Caldwell, and we did a free climbing link up where I think we did 4 hard routes in Zion in a day. And then the next week, I did a solo link up by myself, obviously. That was 3 of those routes. So let's see, I did Moonlight, and then Monkey Finger, and then Shoons Buttress. So Monkey Finger is like a 10 pitch 12B, and Shoons is, like a 10 pitch 11 plus. And those 2 routes I had soloed previously, but and those are actually both epic adventures as well, because Shoons I on-site soloed in a snowstorm, and it was all pretty hardcore. And then Monkey Finger, I also soloed. Actually, Monkey Finger, Tommy and I climbed it, and we wrapped it, and then I soloed it. And then, basically I'd climbed the route twice before lunch. It was kind of amazing. But both of those, when I'd soloed them before, it was kind of in winter, and there was tons of snow between the summit of the route and the rim of the canyon. And so I had these epic adventures doing, something like 2,000 feet of vertical of like extreme canyoneering adventure climbing through the snow to get to the actual rim. And then from Shoons, when you get to the rim, you pick up, I think it was like the Deer Mountain Trail, but it's like an 8-mile walk back to the valley floor. So when I did the solo link up, it's like I did these 3 hard routes and then tons of hiking to connect them and to get back down off the top of the rim in Zion. And I was like, it's pretty big. It's a big outing, especially because I don't think
30 plus pitches of like 511 and 512 mostly.
Yeah, mostly 511, 512 for sure.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, and none of the 3 routes have ever been soloed by anybody else. And it's not, everything about it is like, oh, this is all kind of mega. But, that's like an example of something that like I don't think anybody knows about. And it's just a random thing.
How does that feel for you? Like, was that?
Oh, it was mega. I was like, this is so epic. It was insane. Yeah, it's like an amazing day in Zion. It was awesome. Just hiking around Zion that much is so beautiful. It's like, it's really cool.
Yeah.
That experience, Tommy and I, because we had just climbed Moonlight a couple times the week before to do it for our link up. And when we climbed it, we simuled it in like a pitch. And okay. We maybe 2. I don't remember how it breaks up.
So how does that work? You're just placing a piece like every 80 feet or something?
No. You just bring a bigger rack and you place gear as you need it.
Okay.
But and then we use micros and stuff to protect the second. So the person below is always on top rope. It basically feels like normal climbing. You just never stop.
Okay.
But when Tommy and I did it, Moonlight felt much easier than I remember, and I was like, oh, this is more like 12B. Like, this is so chill. And then I went back the next week without a rope, and all the lie backing with you, when you don't have a rope on, your feet are all a little higher, you're pulling a little harder, and I was suddenly quite a bit more pumped. And I was like, maybe 12C is appropriate. I was like, oh, I'm a lot more pumped. But anyway, yeah, it was a great experience.
That's incredible. I can understand, like, obviously wanting to free solo all of those routes. I mean, I can't, but like, given what you've done, that makes sense. What happens that makes you go, okay, what if I combined all these things and did them in a day?
No, I don't know. I mean, link up is just part of climbing. It's just cool.
More cool climbing. It's that Peter Croft thing, just like
a little bit
more
of that.
Fun in a day.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, when you solo a route like Moonlight or in any of those, it only takes an hour. So, you have a 20-minute approach, you climb for an hour, like a 25-minute jog back down, and then you're sort of like, cool, should we have brunch? Like, what do you do with the rest of your day? Like, obviously, you go climb other things. It's like,
that's amazing. So, when was that?
I don't know. That was like 2012 or 2013, or I forget. It could have been 14, but it's been like 10 years basically.
Yeah.
And then just more recently, I did a similar link up in Red Rock, where I soloed Cloud Tower to the original route on the Rainbow Wall to Levitation 29. And then I attempted to solo Dogma on Mount Wilson. It would have been a nice quad thing doing all 4. But after the first sort of bottom quarter of Dogma, I was just not into it. So I down climbed and went home.
Tell me about that. So what feeling did you have, or what told you, like, what was it that you noticed that made you think, like, I'm just not into this, I'm going to reverse this?
Well, basically, the specific thing was that my fingers and toes were killing me because I'd climbed levitation in full sun. Levitation 29 faces south and just bakes. So it's like 1,000 feet of climbing on dark rock in full sun in the middle of the afternoon. And it was hot and I basically burned. So my skin was trashed, my toes were hurting. And I'd already done 30 pitches up to 512. And so it's like, it's a big day. And so then when I went over to Dogma, it was like getting into evening. I forget, I think I maybe would have had to climb into the dark. I'm sure I had a headlamp and I was ready for, logging in for the night's sesh. But I was just like, this is all about to get mega. I was like, I couldn't weight my feet because my toes hurt too much. I didn't feel like very secure on the holds because my skin was so soft and wet after, 30 pitches of climbing in sun. And so I was just like, this is not the time to solo a big wall.
Yeah.
And then also, and then there's the other side of it where it's like, just by sheer coincidence, my wife's whole family was staying at the house and her Nana was there and they were having a big like cookout in the backyard and it was like a whole thing. And I was kind of like, do I want to miss family dinner? And, I was like, either I'm about to have an epic through the night on something that's going to feel wildly insecure and be kind of messed up, or I can go home and have this lovely afternoon cookout with my family. And I was kind of like, this is the time to bail.
Yeah.
But then you're always like, is that light duty? But then
is like, that whatever. Light duty? That's so funny. You're the only person that could even ask that question, I think, with something like that. I am curious about the foot pain thing. That's something I've always been curious about. I haven't heard you talk about that much, but every time you do one of these huge things, free soloing El Cap, for instance, 30 pitches of continuous climbing, your shoes are on your feet for 3+ hours. I know there's ledges and stuff, but
yeah, I pop the shoes on and off, but
yeah, like is foot pain an issue on stuff like that?
Foot pain is more an issue when you get beyond that. So I'd say for free soloing El Cap, you don't think about foot pain. It's only a couple hours. It's like perfectly broken in shoes. You pop them on and off. You're never in the sun. Where you really deal with foot pain is stuff like the El Cap triple, where you climb El Cap 3 times in a day. Because like doing 90 pitches of crack climbing in a day. And then with that, like when I did the El Cap triple, the last route we just climbed full afternoon sun, like blazing heat, like late June, or maybe it was July even. It was crazy on Lurking Fear, which faces west and just gets cooked in the sun. And we were just dying. And so, anytime you're in the sun, it makes the foot stuff way worse.
Your feet swell. And
yeah, the feet swell. And the rubber, the black shoe just burns your feet. And then the rock is so hot. Anyway, but yeah, one of the things I always do with all these link ups is prophylactic ibuprofen. Like I just take 800 milligrams ibuprofen every 6 hours, starting from the very beginning. And that does really help up to a point.
Yeah.
It's like, and it helps with like the joint pain and just the various aches and pain. It just allows you to feel a little tighter on everything. Of course, it only goes so far. It's like, I think if you really cared, you'd have to switch to a harder drug than ibuprofen.